Sri Lankan authorities have admitted what they call a major intelligence lapse ahead of the attacks that happened in the capital, Colombo, on Sunday. The parliament today learnt of an Indian intelligence warning from the beginning of the month about planned attacks that was not properly shared by authorities. Let's get more international news. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. Sri Lankan authorities say they've identified 8 of the 9 suspected suicide bombers involved in the Easter Sunday attack. More than 350 people were killed when explosives were detonated at 3 churches and 3 luxury hotels. Details are starting to emerge about the attackers. They were Sri Lankan nationals, well-educated and mostly came from wealthy families. It's believed at least one of them studied in the UK before doing a course in Australia, and another one was a woman. More than 60 people have been arrested. The country's Deputy Defence Minister says the attacks could have been avoided, and the President has reportedly asked the Defence Secretary and the Police Chief to resign.
Well, there was definitely a lapse of intelligence, and the government has, we have to take responsibility because unfortunately, if this, the sharing of, of intelligence information had been given to the right people, I think at least this could have been, whether it was could be avoided or even minimized.
An explosion has hit a rebel-held city in the northwest of Syria, killing at least 17 people. Dozens of others were injured as several residential buildings collapsed. The cause of the blast wasn't immediately clear. The area has been a target and heavily bombarded by both Russian and Syrian forces in recent weeks. Floods and mudslides have claimed more than 50 lives in South Africa. Buildings collapsed and homes were destroyed following days of torrential rain in southern and eastern parts of the country. A severe weather warning is still in place, with more flooding and strong winds expected in coastal areas.
I sat down on a chair and cleaned the drainage for about an hour, to no avail, because when the torrential downpour really came, nothing could stop that water.
More than 50 jade miners are missing, feared dead, following a mudslide in Myanmar. The workers and their machinery were buried under a mound of tailings. A local lawmaker says the nature of the disaster means there's no chance of survival and recovering the bodies will be difficult. North Korea's Kim Jong-un has arrived in Russia for his first summit with President Putin. The leader was all smiles as he arrived in Vladivostok. He then went on to receive a military welcome. His motorcade was later seen driving through the city ahead of his meeting, where he's expected to seek support from Russia following the failed nuclear talks with the US.
I have come to Russia with good feelings. I hope this visit will be successful and useful. I hope through the negotiations with dear President Putin, I will be able to discuss certain questions of reconciliation on the Korean Peninsula and development of relationships between our countries. My warm greetings to all the Russian people.
Images have emerged of a former US Marine allegedly entering North Korea's embassy in Madrid before it was reportedly robbed. Christopher Philip Ahn is accused of storming the building with 6 other intruders in February. He's in US custody pending possible extradition to Spain and is due to appear in court in July. Egypt has approved constitutional changes that could allow President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to stay in power until 2030. According to the National Election Authority, nearly 90% of voters taking part in a referendum supported the move. The changes will also give him more power over the judiciary and further bolster the military's role in politics. Political leaders have attended the funeral of a journalist who was murdered in Northern Ireland. 29-year-old Lyra McKee was shot by the new IRA during riots in Londonderry last week. The streets were lined with people applauding as her coffin arrived at a cathedral in Belfast. The British Prime Minister Theresa May, opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn and the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar joined hundreds of mourners at the service to pay their respects. 4 pro-democracy activists have been jailed in Hong Kong for the roles they played in the Occupy movement. Tens of thousands of people flooded the streets in 2014, demanding the right to choose their own leader in a free election. 2 of the leaders were jailed for 16 months and 2 others were sentenced to 8 months in prison. They vowed to continue their fight.
I really believe when I release from prison, I will see a stronger and more powerful democratic movement in Hong Kong.
And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Brilliant. Many thanks indeed, Simon Pusey from our London bureau. Ayotunde Balogun has the sports news.
Many thanks, Gimba. Well, the Femi Otedola Foundation has given the sum of 18 million naira to former Super Eagles coach Mr. Christian Chukwu for further treatment in the United Kingdom. The check was presented to Mr. Chukwu earlier today in Enugu by an official of the foundation. Meanwhile, the NFF president, Mr. Amaju Pinnick, has confirmed that the welfare scheme will be set up to assist former Nigeria internationals.
We decided at the part of Nigeria Federation to come up with what's called the NFF Foundation. Not just basically to look at players and their welfare, but also to prepare them for life after football. And in the coming weeks, maybe the next week, following week, we are going to announce the composition of this committee, just a 7-member committee, the NFF Foundation, and they are going to be saddled with the responsibility of ensuring they have a database of everybody that played for Nigeria. Not just the players, also some notable administrators and notable stakeholders. So we don't just look and concentrate on the pitch, we also look at people that have impacted on us off the pitch.
Guinea have qualified for the final of the CAF Under-17 African Nations Cup. The junior Sili National edged out the Golden Eagles of Nigeria 10-9 on penalties after the game had ended goalless at full time. Mohamed Suma scored for Guinea in the stunning death, but Ogaga Uduko missed for Nigeria to send the Guineans to their first ever final. Nigeria will play Angola in the third-place game on Saturday, while Guinea will face Cameroon in the final on Sunday.
It is Suma. That's a simple goal to score. Beautiful penalty. Kamara Seiku up against Oduko David. The Nigerian side is praying. They are looking at the heavens for a miracle here. Oduko David up against Kamara. It is Oduko. He strikes over the bar. It looks like the prayers of Oduko David just did not work.
And in the English Premier League, Manchester City Football Club are back to the top of the table after goals from Bernardo Silva and Leroy Sané earned the champions a 2-0 win over Manchester United in the Manchester derby. Wolverhampton Wanderers scored all their goals in the first half as they beat Arsenal 3-1 at home and condemned the Gunners to back-to-back defeats in the league. The victory takes Wolverhampton Wanderers up from 10th to 7th, while Arsenal remain 5th, 1 point adrift of 4th place Chelsea and 4 behind North London rivals Tottenham Hotspur. And that's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. The News at 10 continues in a moment.
And the main news again. The President, Muhammadu Buhari, today applauded the achievements of Governor Akinwumi Ambode as they commissioned major projects executed by the outgoing State Chief Executive. And that's all been on the News at 10 tonight. I want to thank you so much indeed for watching. On behalf of all of us here, have a splendid night rest. I am Gimba Umar.